Been good. How have you been?
Good. Are you at work right now?
I am. Yep.
Awesome. So I loved, so just a backstory for everyone that's listening. We met at a Powerhouse Summit, so a women's event. And I love how I think when people talk about money, there's like a weird vibe that starts entering the room. But I
hmm
felt like when you started speaking about it and you told your story and how you got there, like there wasn't a weird vibe in the room. Like it felt so natural, just like you were talking to somebody like, I don't know, about the weather. Like it was just like this normal thing. And that's what really drew me to you. And I was like, man, I'd really like her to be a guest. So I really appreciate you coming on today.
Well, thank you. That's very kind.
So Jennifer, do you mind giving everyone just telling them who you are and like your backstory and why you're so passionate about financial advisory?
Yeah, absolutely. So I currently serve as a financial advisor for a local community bank. I work in our wealth management department and work on individual financial management as well as trust and estate services. My previous career was in human resources. I worked in the nonprofit world for about 10 years doing human resources related work. But where this all began is I am a daughter of a financial advisor. So I grew up in the business watching my dad as a financial advisor, working with clients for decades on their financial plans, and just started at a very young age understanding financial literacy and investing. So that passion has been really a part of my life since I was very young.
So did you ever find yourself in a position where you're like, oh shit, maybe I don't have it all together?
Yes, I would say my early 20s. I think you're figuring out who you are and what you want out of life. I tell the story that I got married young and I married the wrong person too young and too soon. And I didn't find somebody that shared the same values with me as far as financial stability and realized, that this wasn't going to work long term, that this was not the path that I wanted to be on. I remember at one point thinking, I'm going to wake up and be 50 years old and I'm still going to be unhappy. I'm still going to be miserable. But the part where finances came into that is I had my own money. I had an education, I had a career, I had my own bank account, I had my own investments, and I had the ability to say, this is not for me anymore. And it was hard. It was hard to pay for a divorce and be a single mom for a while and take care of all of those obligations. But I will say that the foundation that I had as far as um, having options, having the ability to say, I'm going to walk away from this marriage and I'm going to provide for myself, um, gave me a lot of strength, even during a really hard time.
Well, I love that because that's something that I preach to after going through a divorce that I mean, divorces are never pretty, right? Like you don't plan
No.
for them. But after that, I told myself I was like, okay, like I'm not going to be so naive. And on the flip side of that, because people are like, gosh, you're such a jerk, right? And you're married. What does your husband think? And I'm like, well, now he sees me as like an independent woman, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm a pillar in the house versus just relying on, my partner, which is two very different things. And I think it gives us, it gives us security and choices make your life better.
Absolutely. And I think you attract a different type of partner when you are strong and independent and have really your own thing going on. Remarried after my divorce. I am married to a wonderful man now who sees me as strong, independent, financially stable. I got my shit together for lack of a better term.
I love
Um,
it.
and he was like, okay, I'm attracted to that. I want to be with somebody that has her own thing going on. I think I learned throughout my 20s that my independence and what is important to me needed to come first before I was a wife, before I was a mother, before I was a daughter. I'm really Jennifer first. And I think when you come into a relationship with that kind of energy, you are seen as a compliment. You are going to partner with somebody, you can add value to their life, but you're not looking for them to complete you in some way or fulfill something that you need to fulfill on your own.
Yeah. So if someone is, let's say, I call it now is the household CEO, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, which still a very important job. Like there's still shit that needs to be done and you never get a day off. So, are you familiar, which I'm sure you are, with like a spousal IRA?
I am. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you mind sharing some information on that?
Yeah, I think, for all of those stay-at-home moms out there or people that are in a situation where they're not bringing in a regular income, but they're a part of a marriage and part of a relationship, your financial future is just as important as the person that is bringing in a paycheck. I had the opportunity to stay home for about 2 years with my last baby, decided to take a break from the career, stayed home and enjoyed that time, but it still meant that I was contributing to our family. And my husband likes to refer to me as the CFO of the family, not just the
Okay,
CEO.
got you.
Um, so, a spousal IRA is a great option. It allows your spouse to contribute to your retirement account to benefit you, even if you're not working at that time. And I shared this during the Powerhouse Summit, and I think the room went very quiet when I shared this. But when I was a stay-at-home mom, I received a paycheck. I received a direct deposit every 2 weeks, just like I was working, from my husband's employer. That's how he decided he wanted to set it up for us when we made the joint decision for me to stay home, because he said, "You're still working. You still have a job. Your job is just in the home for a couple of years during this time period, but you need to have autonomy over your own income, your own spending, your own choices." So I took a paycheck, and I'm not ashamed or embarrassed to admit that, because I worked really hard at home, taking care
Oh
of a
my
baby and
God.
taking care of our family and taking care of our home. And it allowed his career to really blossom and grow
Mhm.
because I had things taken care of on the home front. And so I'm a big proponent of having your own accounts, having your own checking account, having your own investment account. You could have a joint account as well. Some people like to do, a joint account and then two personal accounts. I just am a really big proponent of having your own money and having your own say and not really ever having to ask permission. I don't know how that really works in a marriage where you come to somebody and you're like, "Oh, can I have $100 to go to Target?" Like, I can't fathom that for myself. And I don't want, as women, I want us to stand on our power and say, no, I'm not going to ask permission. We're going to agree on a budget together. This is a partnership. This is what we've agreed to spend. And then I'm going to have the latitude to spend that money.
Yeah. That's kind of like what happened. Well, we pivoted in our life because I've always been the breadwinner. Like I enjoy making money. I know how to make a lot of money, and it's just something that gave me great joy. But then I
Mm-hmm.
had the baby and I was like, okay, now we're gonna pivot because he's like, we tried doing the thing where I worked and he stayed at home and he's like, you know what? Like all jokes aside, you're better at it. He's like, I can't take care of the baby and clean, like, and cook. Like, I can't do what you do. So we switched roles. And in that, it was hard for me because I was so used to being the CFO saying, you can have this much money and this. And then
Mm-hmm.
since the roles changed, it was kind of funny because, like you said, I didn't want to be in the position where I wanted to be like, hey, can I go to Target? So
Yep.
so we now personally sharing that we do have our joint account, and that's like for all of our bills. And then we do have our separate accounts, and that does give us a huge amount of freedom to where I feel like a lot of people could potentially argue over money, and that frees up
Mm-hmm.
a lot because both parties know shit's getting taken care of. You can see, right? And then you have your own
Yep.
money so you can go do whatever the fuck you want.
Yep, exactly. And the other thing too is, you need to have trust established in your partnership as far as, I trust that you have your own money, I have my own money. You're going to spend on what you're going to spend on. I mean, you need to be in a situation where you're not being disrespectful to your partner by the choices that you're making financially. But I don't want to see what you're spending on my Christmas gift, or I don't want to see what you're
Yeah.
spending to buy me flowers, or, some of
Yeah.
those things like, I remember my mom shared a story one time when I was a kid, and she's like, "Well, I know what I'm getting for Christmas because I saw the credit card bill at the jeweler." And I'm like, "Oh, I just don't know if I love that feeling of knowing, first of all, spoil the Christmas gift because you haven't even
Right.
gotten it yet, and you know how much it was, what it cost. Maybe you didn't want to know that." I mean, sometimes there's some things where I'm like, a little mystery in the relationship with certain things is good. Like, you have to trust your partner enough to know, okay, they're going to go buy me a Christmas gift, and don't need to know exactly what it costs and have that control.
Right.
Have a little bit of surprise.
So speaking of surprise, a lot of people have children.
Yes.
So I know like we set up accounts with the kids early on. But there's so much information on TikTok and I mean everywhere. Where would be a good place that you would say is trustworthy to talk to someone about opening up accounts for their children to set their future up?
Absolutely. So there's a couple of different directions you can go. I mean, if you firmly believe that your children are going to go to college or going to have some kind of education expenses in the future, the 529 accounts are a great option. Here in Colorado, I utilize a program called College Invest. They have a wonderful website. It's very easy to do it yourself. They're in age-based portfolios. So for example, my 4-year-old's account is invested much more aggressive than my 14-year-old's account since she's closer to college. And really that college expense, what's nice about it is, for example, I have 3 children, but if one child decides to not go to school, I can use that account for another sibling. And so there is a little bit of flexibility between the 529 accounts for college expenses. Savings accounts, I think we all we were taught, I guess, back when we were 80s and 90s kids, you had a savings account or you had a savings bond. Well, I'm here to tell you that saving is not where our kids are going to get rich. It's in investing. So for adults, we can invest on behalf of our children and then teach them how to invest when they get to that age. So as soon as they have earned income, whether they're 14 years old, 15, 16, as soon as they have W-2 earned income, open up a Roth IRA. Teach them how to invest. Whether that's a 50-50 rule where you say, okay, your first paycheck, 50% you can spend, 50% you can invest because I'm still covering your expenses because you live at home. But teaching them to invest in a Roth IRA as soon as possible, as early as possible is huge because investing is where wealth is built, not saving. Saving is, put your money in the bank and get 1, 2, 3% maybe.
Right.
Investing over the long term is where you're going to really build wealth. And I walk alongside my children as we talk about money, teaching them what I've experienced, teaching them what worked well for me. And when you are learning about personal finance, why not share that knowledge with your children? Because it's only going to set them up for a better and brighter future.
Yes. So if someone had their own business, and I see a lot of times, and so I wanted to ask you this question. A lot of people pay their kids so that way they can get that tax write-off, right? A certain amount. But how does that affect them going to college if they don't have a college fund set up?
So, college funds are great, but they're not going to be the end all be all of how you go to college. I'm not super familiar with the FAFSA just because I did not go through that full
Mhm.
process. I was really benefited from my parents paying for my college and saving for that. But we have implemented for our children kind of a 3-part rule that we're going to go forward with. So the 3-part rule, I would like us to pay for a third. I want to contribute to my kids' college. I'm going to use their college account to do so. I would like to pay for a third. I also have an expectation that a third is going to come from scholarships or grants. There are so many underutilized scholarships and grants out there that people just never even apply for. I heard recently that really as a junior or senior in high school, you should have a part-time job essentially of applying for scholarships, 5 to 10 hours a week dedicated
Oh, wow.
to finding scholarships because there are so many out there that are not utilized. And then I think a third needs to come from your kids. There needs to be some skin in the game as far as contributing to their education. I think I would have benefited if I had to pay for some of my education.
Same.
That freshman year, I might have taken a little bit more seriously, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But with the caveat of if you get all A's, I'll reimburse you for your third.
Mm.
So you put up the money up front, you go through your semester of school, you get straight A's, come back to me, I will give you that third right back. I'll write you a check. If somebody doesn't have a 529 or an investment account set up, you really have to think about how you're going to cash flow education expenses. I am really not a fan of student loan debt. A couple of reasons for that is oftentimes it's very high interest rates. Kids are given more than they actually need, and then they're spending student loan money on things outside of education, trips, clothing,
Yeah.
entertainment. So I'm really not a proponent of student loans, but finding a way to cash flow college. So if you know in 2 years you've got a tuition payment coming, how are you going to adjust your budget now to start planning for that? I use it as a very similar example. Before I stayed home with my last baby, we practiced for a year on one income. We essentially did a practice year of like, how is this going to feel to not have my income?
That's what we're doing
Give
next
yourself
year.
some,
Part of me is like afraid.
yeah, I know it is hard. It's hard to cut back at first, but gosh, when you have the opportunity to practice on a single income and bank that additional cash, huge opportunity. I think the same goes into, I mean, when your kid's 16, you know they're going to be 18 in 2 years. So don't act surprised when they turn 18. Let's practice that
I love
budget. Let's
that. Don't act
practice.
surprised.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Right.
But you can start practicing what that cash flow can look like if you don't have money set aside, but you want to contribute to your kids' education expenses.
So let's say, okay, we'll use me for example. So we're going to take my income because it's smaller because I only work 1 to 2 days a week. We're going to put that aside. Where should I put that money?
Yeah, so I think, I'm always going to be a proponent of investing, but I look at it in three goals. Do you have short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals? So anything less than a year really is short-term. You should have that in a money market fund. Money market right now is paying over 4%. It's a great place to park your funds. That could be a high yield savings account. It can be a money market mutual fund. That is short-term money. That's 1 year or less money. Then you've got kind of mid-term money, and that's 1 to 4 years roughly. I think that's where you could have it invested, but conservatively, in a more of a conservative portfolio, or maybe a split between money market and part of it's invested. Anything that's longer than 5 years, invest that money. Low cost index funds. I'm a big proponent of Fidelity just because I utilize it myself for my online brokerage account. You can buy low cost index funds through Vanguard, through Fidelity, through Schwab. There's lots of options out there. Anything longer than 5 years, that's where money needs to be invested. That's where the growth opportunity and potential really can be.
It's funny. I talk about money like I talk about buying groceries, which
Yeah,
is,
me too.
well, actually, you know what? I take that back. I'm mad at groceries right now. Let's talk about like my dogs.
Yeah.
So I was actually at the salon the other day and I was listening to my client, and I always want to, if someone is living a life that I find that I would like myself to be in, I asked them, like, how the hell did you get here? And so I'm doing her hair and she starts talking about her 6 Airbnbs, her 6 rentals. And then I stopped. I go, what did I say exactly? Oh, I go, how many streams of income do you have? And the whole salon, I'm not kidding you, stopped. It went silent. And everyone looked at me like I asked her what size underwear she wears. Like they were like, and I was like, I'm just going to keep going with this. And she kind of laughed. And I said, so and so, I love what you're telling me. I need to know more. And so she like literally like just told me everything, how she got there, what their choices were. And same thing. She was married previously. And then after that, she was like, whoa, I need to have some things of my own. And she like unfolded the story. And I thought it was so amazing. But my favorite part was she told her husband, hey, I've been working for you for free for so many years. Like, I want a paycheck. So he cut her $25,000 for like the last year or two or whatever of working. And so she was like, I'm going to go invest. Dropped into account, forgot about it. 1 year later, you know how much she had in it? $300,000.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, because her
That's
husband goes,
incredible.
how's your stocks going? She's like, I forgot I had that. Let me check. And so when she called, she forgot all of her information. And they're like, well, how much is in there? Oh, and she said that she put 20 in so that way she could have 5 to spend on whatever. And she's like, 20,000. And he's like, let me keep, what's your social? What's your, like, kept going through it. Cause he's like, it's more than 20. And she's like, well, how much is it? And she lost her mind. And so, I mean, I think it's so important to like have these conversations, even among your friends or your friends' moms or whoever it may be, because I feel like the more that we speak about it, like the more that we learn, because it's kind of scary, right? Like when you're first learning about, let's just say anything. Like, so it's like,
Absolutely.
what's the first step? So you work in Colorado. Can you work all over the nation, or are you specific to Colorado?
Our bank here is based just in Colorado, but I work with clients all over the country. We specialize in working with high net worth clients that have, significant wealth that they've built up, and they're looking for really, what does that mean generationally? Am I passing that wealth on to the next generation? What does it mean from a tax planning standpoint? We have a lot of people that are doing charitable giving. through their investment accounts. And then we also do quite a bit of trust and estate management. That typically is focused in the state of Colorado because every state is going to have different probate and estate rules. I recently had the opportunity to work on a trust that there were no children, no heirs. All of the proceeds went to charities here in our local
Oh,
community.
I love it.
And it was wonderful. It's such a rewarding experience to see people that have built up such significant wealth over their lifetime, and then they just want to do good. They just want to pass that on to their local community that they cared about.
Well, and I think the word in there that really sticks out is like cared about, right? So it's
Mhm.
like, I know for me, generational wealth is important. So how can I set my kids up? But also like I like how Steve Jobs did it. Like didn't give him shit though. And they didn't really know like how much dad
Yeah,
had or whatever that may look like. But I mean setting the kids up is so important to me. But I have to care enough now, right, to ask those scary questions, to go in and call people and just kind of lay it all on the table and say, this is where we're at. How do we get here?
absolutely. And you have to start slow or you have to start somewhere. I mean, I didn't wake up one day and have the assets that I had. I started at a young age, and I share this game that I've played, and some people find it silly. Some people find it maybe too simple, but I started playing this game when I first started a check register. So my dad, when I had to get my allowance, starting when I was young, I had to write a check for it to get my allowance. That's how I learned how to write checks. And then I kept a check register, which I'm old school. I still keep a check register
Do
to
you?
this day. So the way this game works is, so when I was younger, say I had $250 in my checking account. Well, I didn't really have any bills. I probably wasn't going to get paid from my job at the mall until the following Friday. I would take $50 and invest it and bring my checking register down to $200 even. It was always $100 even, whether it was 200 or 300 or 400. And I would invest every single week. I've done this now for 22 years.
Oh, wow.
Every single week, I've brought my check register down to a zero. Sometimes it's $2,000, sometimes it's $200. It depends on what stage of life I was in.
Yeah.
There was a time in my life when, I was bringing it down to the bare bones when I was, going through a divorce and a single mother. But every single week, I've been consistent. And it's been less than $100 because, again, I'm only trying to get down to that even zero mark. But the consistency and the practice, it's like a muscle. Saving and investing is like a muscle. The more you use it, the easier it becomes, the stronger it gets. It becomes second nature to me. I can't imagine not now doing my check register game every single week.
Yeah. That's awesome. So if someone is just like, man, I have no idea where to start, or when would be a good time to talk to a professional?
Absolutely. So I would say we need to be students for our entire lives. We're always learning. So learning about finance is no different than learning a new skill at your job, learning a new skill in school. I would challenge everybody to take just 15 minutes a day. Find a podcast, find an article to read, find a book about personal finance. Start small, 15 minutes a day, and study. Um, when it's time to really meet with a financial advisor and get some guidance is when you start to have a little bit more of a complex situation. You have investments, you have a retirement account, you maybe have a house, you maybe have life insurance that's coming into play. There are financial advisors out there that work either for a flat fee or are charged on a percentage of the assets that they manage for you. I would be really leery of working with anybody that works on commission because they are going to be incentivized to themselves, potentially more than to you. I like to say in this industry, we all get paid, we just get paid different. So, for example,
Okay.
with my clients, it's a flat fee. No matter if I talk to them twice a year, 20 times a year, whatever, it's always a flat fee
Oh, wow.
and it's always transparent, which I think is important. So, know how your financial advisor is getting paid and ask questions. Just be curious. Ask questions in your network. I love how you shared that story about asking that woman how she got to where she got. Um, I think we need to be more open with our fellow, our network, our colleagues, our family, our friends of saying, what are you doing and what's working?
Mhm.
Tell me what you've done in the last year that's really worked well for you. I want to learn from you. Surround yourself with people that are making good financial choices and
Oh my gosh,
good.
that's a huge one. Say
It
that again, but
is.
slower.
Yes, surround yourself. Surround yourself that really inspire you and are making good financial choices and setting themselves up for future financial success. I mean, we are the company we keep. So if you are surrounding yourself with people that are neck deep in credit card debt and have nothing saved for retirement and have no clue how to budget, that will rub off on you. If you surround yourself with people that are investing and talking about what stocks they're picking this week and what investment deals they're working on and how they're setting up their family for financial success, those are people you want to be around.
Yes, for sure. So I definitely, there's like a group of four of us that live in Newcastle, and we'll meet and we celebrate wins like that. And we share like,
Yeah,
okay, this is what we're doing and this is what's working, this is not working. And then, because I think celebrating the wins and sharing them is so important. Or we kind of get in this like loop of like, well, yeah, I had to do it. And then it's not fun anymore. But I mean, setting ourselves up should be super fun. May feel like shit at first,
absolutely.
but
Yeah, I think it's sometimes hard to say no to right now, to say yes to later. I get that. That's not always a comfortable position to be in, but I always think to myself, do something now that your future self will thank you for.
you know what helped me is I was newly divorced and just like rebuilding everything. And I took this class from, who was it, Sally Crenshaw? Do you remember her from like,
Oh yeah.
I forgot her class was called Buy the $5 Coffee. And the
Yep.
first thing she said when she walked up, she's like, if $5 a day is ruining your finances, that's not the
Yep.
fucking problem. And I was like, oh,
Exactly.
because I was pinching so much, right? But what she said to do that I do now is that like, so we have different savings accounts and we've named them. So
Yep.
I have future Christine and I have like vacation Christine. And so it's so much easier to put the money in there, like seeing what it is.
Hmm.
So I don't know if someone like just has regular savings account, go into your bank app, you can change the name, change it to vacation Christine or vacation Jennifer, and you're going to want
Yep.
to pour money in there.
Exactly. You're giving those dollars a name. You're giving those dollars a purpose. And I think that's why budgeting is important because you are deciding what you want to spend your money on. I don't think budgets need to be restrictive. I look at my budget and there's plenty of room for the coffees and the spa appointments and the shopping, all the things that I love. But it has a name and it's decided upon, and I'm being intentional about it. When you are intentional about your spending and when you actually know where your money's going,
Yeah.
you are in control versus the money being in control of you.
Well, and I feel like emotions too, like, because I save money aside because I love Doc Martens. I'm sorry, but every
Yep.
pair is at least
Yep.
$200. But when I
Yep.
have, hundreds of dollars in there, sometimes I'm like, I actually just wanted those Doc Martens in the moment. And even though the
Yep.
money's there, like that high for my emotion isn't there. So I don't even want it right now.
Yeah. This is a really good one, Christine, as far as, we are bombarded with ads. If I go on Instagram, for example, I am given an ad every third or fourth post of what to buy. And
Well, and to
sometimes
be
we do
fair,
it.
yeah, it knows you. It knows Jennifer
Yeah,
so well.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, I do like that. I do think that would be lovely
Yeah.
to have. And it's so easy to just click buy now. And it's instantaneous. Our credit card is saved, and 2 days later, something shows up on your doorstep. And I have really taken a pause. And there's that little save button on all the posts on Instagram, for example. Just hit save. Come back to it tomorrow. See if you
Yes.
feel the same way about it. Are you just as excited about that item as you were at 10 o'clock at night when you were scrolling through Instagram? Probably not.
Right.
So I'm not saying that it should be a no all the time, but I think it should be a pause. Like just take a breath. Do you really want that item? Do you really want that thing? Um, is that something that you would really find value in and enjoy? Or was it a very impulsive purchase that 2 weeks from now you're gonna be like, why did I get that?
So even what I do is I have a big dry erase board in the kitchen. It has like the calendar, like things I need to do,
Mhm.
but it has this note section. And every time I'm like, I want to go on Amazon and just buy something for the kitchen, actually, I write it down. And for two reasons. One, I come back to it and I decide, is this going to add more clutter and make me upset? Or when it's like Christmas or my birthday or something like that, those are like little gifts from the family that I know that's in their budget and that they could gift us. They feel
Mhm.
good, I feel good, but it's not something that I need, you know?
Yep.
But I
Well,
mean,
and
I
that
love
it
that
that
pause.
Yeah, and really, when I've had the opportunity to teach financial literacy in the elementary school here, and we talk a lot about needs versus wants because we're growing up in this world where I think needs and wants, that line has become very blurred. And so what you think is a need really probably is a want, and really deciphering between the two. And when you get really clear about what you need, and then very, very clear about this is a want and this is an extra and this is a bonus and this is, something above and beyond what I actually need, it really clarifies your financial decisions.
Yeah. I actually went through and I did this exercise, which I do a lot of like what I want my dream life to look like. But then I was reading this book and so what they said, okay, let's go a step further and let's price everything out. Like what does your dream life cost? And
Mm-hmm.
it was $10,000 a month and I was like that's nothing, right? So I'm like, okay, how can I set myself up for that? Because I want someone to cook dinner 5 nights a week. Like to me, that's so important. My husband's
Yeah.
like, we're gonna be the only middle class family that's gonna have like a cook and a cleaner and all this shit. But I'm like, yeah, but if we set it up, we could afford it. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Getting rid of those like wants versus needs. Because to me, a need is spending time with my family. And
Mm-hmm.
cooking and cleaning, I'm sorry, that takes hours. Let's let someone else thrive. They're going to make money. You're going to be supporting them. Like it's going to be a
Yep.
woman because I support women. Like, you know what I mean? Like our life can be so beautiful and colorful and I think we're so worthy of it, but setting ourselves up is the only way we're going to get to where we want to be.
Yeah, and I also think making sure that your spending choices and your financial choices align with your values. So if you look back on, let's take, October, take your October bank statement and your credit card statement and take a look at it and go, is this what I value? What did you spend money on? Did you spend money on eating out because you went out with girlfriends every single weekend and you value that? Great. Did you spend money on eating out, but you really didn't want to because you value cooking at home, but you somehow don't have time for that because of something else that's going on in your life? I mean, really assess, I want to spend money on the things that are important to me. And that is going to be different from everybody else in my circle, but it's important to me. So let's make
Yeah.
sure that my finances align with that.
I love it. Okay, so I'm going to launch yours probably next week because I think everyone needs to know this. And January 1st is a great time to start for finances. So,
It is.
what is one thing you would tell someone after listening to this? One thing to move the needle that they should start with, no matter where they are financially?
I would say you need to dig into your data. It's really hard to make changes if you don't know what you're already doing. So either find an app that you can start tracking your spending with, get a good old fashioned notepad, spreadsheet, whatever it needs to be. You need to dig into your data and figure out what is actually real. What is the real money you're bringing in? What is the real money that you're spending? You may think you spend $100 a month on something, but maybe it's 250. I mean, those kind of decisions and those kind of awareness points. Once you have data in front of you, actual real numbers, then you can move the needle. And you can say, I can adjust here. I can adjust here. I can, increase my savings. I can increase my 401k contribution. Whatever your goals are, you can do that if you actually know what you're spending your money on. And I would say most people have no idea, just no idea. The money comes in, the money goes out. It just becomes very passive. There's not a lot of awareness around it. Um, give yourself 10 minutes a day. Just start small and find out where is my income? Where are my expenses? And what do I want to change for 2023?
I love it. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much. Your information, I felt it's like girlfriends talking. Like it's not scary.
Yes.
And that's my
Yes.
favorite thing. Well, I will message you, and so that way you can share this podcast too if you would like. But thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I'm excited for 2023 and everyone who listened to this that they can just move that needle forward just a little bit.
Absolutely. Thank you, Christine. This was a great time and wishing everyone a very happy 2023.
All right, have a good day.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.